Welcome back to another episode of the Advisor AI Solutions podcast, where we spotlight innovators shaping the future of construction, sustainability, and technology. Today, I'm joined by Louai Alsaman, a Fulbright scholar, architect, and the mind behind RenderExpo, a firm specializing in architectural visualization and project support. Louis has worked across the US and internationally, bringing a wealth of experience in architecture, urban planning, and project efficiency. In today's episode, we're diving into the fastest way to streamline project certification in the architecture and planning space. So we'll talk about efficiency improvements, the bottlenecks that slow projects down, and some practical strategies to move faster without sacrificing quality. Louis, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jordan. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Very excited to have you here, Louis. But before we jump into the certifications part of things, I'd like to give our audience some context. Do you mind sharing a bit about your journey and what you guys are up to at RenderExpo right now?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, I think you just missed a slight thing about what I'm doing also right now. So we started another company called DLA. So it's Don Lula Architects. So right now we're navigating between RenderExpo and between DLA. Just want to mention that. What we're doing right now is, so RenderExpo is a bit different than any company that is in the area. First of all, obviously we're architects and we've been working with the industry. I've been working personally within the industry for about like 17 years so far. As you mentioned, I covered a lot of places here in the United States. I worked in the Midwest, on the East Coast and on the West Coast, also worked in Europe and in the Middle East. So there's a lot of cultural experience that being brought here in the table of understanding like how things work in the architectural world. But yet in the same time, what is really different about RenderExpo is the concept of like building a project entirely as a digital construction project before you even start doing anything, before you breaking ground. And that's what's like super important about RenderExpo, the process of how everything's being worked on, bringing that entirely 17 years of experience to the table and being able to provide that to all of our clients so they can see that their project is actually working and minimizing any errors, minimizing construction errors, spending money that is not needed, waste of materials. So these are like the highlights of what we do with our clients, regardless of like what's the size of the project, whether we're working with data centers, whether we're working with residential or commercial offices and what so forth.
That's terrific. So ultimately, just streamlining the entire process.
That's what we're trying to do. That's why Render Expo is being brought up. So after years of working in corporate, there's always like this always link that is missing from between the design creative world and between clients. And we wanted to bridge that. So every single time that we were working on a project, these kind of visualizations, they helped the clients understand exactly what they're looking to get. People don't, I can see it as a designer, I can see the visualized product or the project of how it's going to be getting by the end of the day. But as a client, for someone who's working as an accountant or as a business administrator or as someone who's has a capital and they want to invest money or doing whatever kind of project that they do, they understand what they're doing, which I don't understand what they're doing. I need to understand it, but they don't understand what I do as well. So an image is worth 1,000 words. A visual is worth 1,000 words. So upgrading that and putting that on steroids and uplifting this to be entirely as a digital construction process rather than just a visual. This is where Render Expo kicks in. Huge QA QC lift. We do streamline everything differently, and all of our clients they see how things are not broken. There's a lot of processes that are being broken between any architectural firm or any designer's firm and the client or a construction firm or a contractor. So we bridge this, and we've been successfully doing that for the past 3 years. We're happy to continue doing that, and we're just keep on serving our clients.
Absolutely love that. That's powerful. Yeah, how you guys act as that bridge between creativity and structure.
Yeah.
Cool. So I know you guys are international. You'd mentioned you're working in other countries. How do those global experiences shape the way that you see certification and efficiency here in North America?
So obviously each country is different. Working in the Middle East is different than working in the US. Working in Europe is different than working in the US. There's a lot of things that creatively that you can be working in different continents or different countries, but it's kind of limited with IBC coding all the time here in the US. Working with IBC is actually just being able to attain these codes before you start being creative. So bringing that experience to the table and understanding how the code actually works is very different approach of how you want to tackle those things, of how you can creatively doing these kind of subjects. But yet in the same, so that's kind of understanding like how things work here in the US. But even understanding how things work here in the US, you can just like flip it. It's a two-way street, right? So you can understand how the end product is going to be looking like with US standards, and you can apply that overseas with the American experience. And it's been working really good for us. So we've been helping clients do that kind of streamlining in both ways, whether we're working with projects here in the US or outside the US.
I love that how you guys are able to see both sides of it and to be able to utilize it in your guys' favor. Um, okay, so maybe we'll get into the harder things now. So certification process this is whether it's municipal approvals or leads are often seen as roadblocks. From your perspective, what makes this part of the process so complex?
Well, let me start with one thing. First of all, getting the permits and getting the certifications in place, I'm just going to put it that way. It's one of those broken processes that needs to be developed entirely. The way that you're submitting for permits, you're getting all these approvals and the reviews. Don't get me wrong, you need to do all of that. That's not what I'm like focusing on. But the concept of how things need to be developed with entirely with everything that is happening in the AI world and reviewing processes and all of that. There's a literally a hurricane, and not a hurricane, I'm just going to use a better word. There's a tsunami that is actually happening in all the industries, which is AI, as everyone's talking about it. Like AI is taking control of everything. It's literally the upgrade that we had between moving from drafting tables to CAD and from CAD to BIM. And for God's sake, BIM is awful. And now we're moving to AI, right? Like everybody, no, but I don't know anybody who likes BIM because we're not using it the way that it should be used, right? So since all of these processes are being broken, so the concept of streamlining the processes also to get to the right point of getting those approvals. This is something that we're trying to explore of how we can be able to help our clients to streamline these processes and automate that. Because you need after you're getting all your door schedules, all the things that make the elements up to code, whether you're doing like life and safety or whether, as I said, like you're working through the schedules or details and all of that. So there's a place we believe that within the next 5 years, and we're not talking about like, for example, Dynamo being installed on Revit, right? These are like not the kind of things that we're talking about. We're talking about like upscale, high scale kind of approach so we can streamline these processes. So it's still under discovered, still being studied on our end so we can figure out like how these are being done. But let me just tell you one thing. For the sake, we had like 2 experiences so far with helping our clients of like getting the exact approvals from their municipalities. As I said, an image is worth 1,000 words, right? If you're just keep on providing those 2D drawings, you're not going to get anywhere. The 3D drawings, obviously, and the renderings and the photorealistic renderings, as I said, like the digital construction aspect of how you streamline it and you can include it in any process and in any project. This is exactly what you need to do. So if you're showing the county, municipalities that you're not going to be affecting the zoning codes, or even if you're challenging those zoning codes, but you're challenging that in a creative way, by the end of the day, rules were made for you to make the community better, right? So if you're making things better by the end of the day, you're not bothering anyone, you're getting the support of the community, and that's what we're helping our clients do, then why not?
That's terrific, man. So you mentioned the process itself; it's quite fragmented all over. And that you believe that AI might be the next solution. Are you guys currently using any tools with AI integrations?
So we're trying to build a lot of AI tools in-house. So obviously there's every single day there's a lot of AI tools that they're being developed everywhere. But we believe, like, for example, and I'm not going to be naming anybody, but let me just like talk in generic. So for example, in the sense of like visualization, which is like the lower tier of like one of the services that what we provide, which is the photorealistic visualizations. When you're going for AI rendering engines, you're either changing the structure of the building, you're changing the design, you're not getting anything accurate. And when you're plugging in the materials, everything is generic. You can't get this exact specifications, which is again defying exactly against what we do. Because by the end of the day, we want something as a digital twin. You don't want to show something to a client, and by the end of the day, they're going to be saying, "Well, this is not what we've seen." We don't want to see like just pretty images, right? What we want to see is the finished product before, as a digital construction / digital twin in the world of construction, before we go to the world of construction. So when you're going with these kind of AI tools, and I fully understand, I respect the developers of what they're trying to do, but by the end of the day, that's not exactly what you want to get. You don't want to get just a pretty image. So we've tried these tools. They didn't work out for us. And I'm just saying, like, I'm just giving an example. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to streamline exactly what we do as our process in the sense of how we tackle this. We have our checklist. We go from A to Z in all our projects. Let's say we want to start with a check set for the client of what we're doing with them, whether we're designing something with them or whether we're not doing any design, we're just checking their work, we're asking questions. So from that kind of process all the way down to the finished product, we have a series of tasks that what we do. So we're thinking, okay, how we can build a platform within RenderExpo or within DLA that we can say we're going to be streamlining and automate these processes. So instead of like having people manually do them, we're going to be having tools to help our team make their lives easier so they can be more creative and more productive. So it's like basically have a machine operate for you, but you're going to be observing and checking the work of that machine, and why you'll be able to do like more work of what you want to do and develop more stuff that what helps your client or helps the industry and the community.
Surely, that's what it's all about, being able to automate, the laborsome, ordinary work, and then be able to free yourself to do the more valuable, creative things, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, but you're also, absolutely right about. I can only imagine how difficult it could be, especially when you're building, structures and buildings to replicate or emulate the precision required as far as
exactly.
a digital twin is. Okay.
Exactly. And that's
Oh,
that's that's not an easy process by the end of the day, because it literally takes exactly the amount of details that you need to do that physically. You need the exact same kind of details on a high level, on a high level of LOD, to get to that level of digital twinning.
right. Okay. Um, so that's a great point. So would you say are some of the fastest ways you've seen other firms or even yourselves cut through that red tape while still maintaining compliance?
We've seen a lot of progress in I mean, AI, and we're not going to be talking about AI yet, but since we started in 2022. Render Expo started as an official company in 2022. The way that we started tackling these processes is way different than the way that we're doing things nowadays. And reason behind it is literally AI. The way that we're handling our conversations, excuse me, again, the way that we're handling our conversations with our clients, everyone wants everything fast. I'm not sure about you guys, but all of our clients want everything yesterday. And I think they all understand that things need time for things to happen. But by the end of the day, you're working in a very fast world. You need to make decisions fast. When you're talking to like high in command, they want to make decisions fast. So you need to supply these kind of like decisions in their pipeline as fast as possible. So what we're doing is, as I mentioned, we're trying to streamline these processes by the sense of like, all right, tell me exactly what are the things that you need to do in priorities. Obviously, you need to be realistic about things, but let's say you need A group versus B group versus C group. And then we start tackling these kind of like priorities. And if you're literally looking to have all of these kind of being coordinated, yet all of them in the same time, we need to find a way to actually tackle all of that. So um, as I said, different examples, regardless of like the type of work that we do, whether we're doing huge, large projects of like 500 acres or let's say 500. The biggest I think what we've done is 200 acres of master planning. So as long as you're going like 200 acres for master planning versus you're doing like a residence, um, it's the same kind of checklist, but there's like always add-ons.
Well, 200 acres just still sounds pretty massive to me.
It is. It
But
is massive. For us, it is massive. But by the end of the day, it's a different type of project, different requirements, different deliverables. But by the end of the day, you need to understand, as I said, you need to understand the scope of work and how much details that you're including into this. And we had these type of projects. It took a lot of work from us, as any type of project that would take a lot of work to get that project done. But by the end of the day, you need to understand. All right, are we doing that on a high scale level, or we're just going to dive into the deepest of details?
right. That's a great point as well. Also efficiency doesn't always come from working faster, but sometimes it's about smarter sequencing, like you mentioned.
There's one thing that we genuinely focus on that most of the clients and most of the companies that we worked on, they were really truly suffering from communication. And we're not talking about communication between man and machine. We're talking about communication between our company as a unit and other companies as there are the project owners or there are clients, or whether we're working with other architects, construction companies, contractors, any type of people in the real estate industry. Most of their communication processes are broken down. Reason behind it is either companies like our companies, the same kind of style, they're not asking the proper questions. They're not diving deeper in the design programs that you need to address for your client. But there's like always one thing that after we deliver our project, we always get a thank you note of like clear communications, that we understand exactly what we're doing. We are targeting the requirements of every project that we're going to be working with, fast deliverables. We cut down. The major thing that we've seen is how much we cut down on the time of, because of that broken communication, we don't go back and forth a lot. So we believe that the first deliverable makes it, cuts it. Although that we say, okay, if things didn't work out for the first deliverable, we're more than happy to tweak and go for the second deliverable. But we never had really this type of issue. Always, there's like always exceptions because the client had something in mind, or there's something like being changing during the process. But this is, I think, one of the major things that personally we've been able to tackle for the sake of like expediting the process.
Right. You're so right about that. When it comes to collaborating with other members or entities or companies, that can make and break a project, and save so much time if it's thought out way ahead of time. Um, so with that being said, where do you see most firms getting stuck? If you had to point out the top 2 or 3 bottlenecks that eat up time and money in certification, what would those be?
If you're using the same traditional methods that you've been using since 2010 to 2020, you're going to be falling behind. You're going to be eaten up. That's for sure. As I said, the way that we're seeing AI is how it's being intervening in all the processes. Even IBC now has an AI agent, which is amazing. So if you're going to be keep on doing that, you're going to be stuck in the bottleneck, as I said. And then the other thing is, before when you're planning for your projects, obviously each company, they have plannings for their projects from the starting line to the execution line, whether you're an architect, contractor, or any person, as I mentioned, in the real estate industry. If you're not changing the dynamic of how you're approaching your project entirely, of like using the right proper tools, because things are like very different now than how they used to be in the 2000 2010. Things are going super fast. There's a lot of tools out there that they can help you. sit down. For example, I'm just going to give like a quick example. Let's say you're designing a project. Usually, how things have been done in the past, you sit down with the client, you understand exactly what they're looking for, you type down things, and then you start developing a design program, right? And then you give the client a lot of references. Do you like this? Do you like that? Do you like this style, this modern, something like whatever the kind of architectural style that you're going after? And then they like, all right, I like this. And then you ask, what do you like about that? And then you start developing like an idea because you want to approach the client with zero ego. And this type of process by itself, it takes between a week to a month or like 2 months, right? The way things are happening now that you can potentially sit with your client and while he's talking to you, you can have a screen in front of him. And while you're on your computer, you can have certain tools that you can actually show him the design up completed to like 60% or 70%. And then you can tweak that model based on the feedback that he has. So, which is like absolutely amazing. This is how people are actually doing it. So you're saving yourself a lot of time. You're saving your client a lot of time and money. And yet in the same time, you're being able to be productive more. So
That's that's unreal. Like just by evolving as a company, evolving your strategies, the amount of man hours, amount of dollars that you can save while
exactly.
while producing a great product as well, right?
Exactly. That's exactly right. Things are like very different, even in the, as I mentioned, in the digital construction world. It used to be like you need to put a lot of time and effort to tweak a 3D model versus like nowadays, you can actually help do that in a very short period of time. We're talking about like not entirely like the something like very complex of a project. Like we're not talking about like chemical factories, right? But we're talking about like residential, commercial, open offices, these type of like malls, hospitality, these kind of like type projects that you can ideate while you're talking to your client, but by the end of the day, you're giving him some sort of a product that it's sketchy, very schematic. It could be like pre-schematic, but they understand what your vision is. And by the end of the day, you can even like use these type of things, like these type of tools as marketing tools, or you can actually, if you already signed up with that, you have that client signed up, so you're cutting a lot of time.
That is, that must be super exciting in the industry for, having these tools upcoming now being, still, I'm sure still quite early, but very exciting nonetheless. So, that's absolutely golden. I think a lot of firms that are listening to this will take that and probably apply it immediately.
This is honestly, Jordan, this is one of the things that we've applied in DLA and Render Expo. So we sit down with our clients all the time, and then we have our screens, and then what we have is this kind of like concept. Instead of like having those, we can do it with obviously remotely via Zoom calls or via Google Meets or whatsoever. But we prefer that we can sit down with the client just for this one time instead of like sitting down and understanding the requirements of the design program. So we meet with a client, we start ideating with them for like an hour or two. And then by the end of the day, they have something to even show their wives, their partners. And it's by the end of the day, this is what they're looking for, right? So it's very crucial that they understand what their product is going to be looking like instead of like waiting months for that finished product or like that kind of uh, schematic design, which is going to be going afterwards to design development. We kind of like finalize the pre-schematic, and then after that, where we're going to say, okay, so this is what you like. Let's start finding the products that you like, which is matching something similar. But we already have the approval for that, so that's cutting a lot of time for us before we cut that time for the client.
Man, that must be absolutely massive, Louis. So, with that being said as well, so with technology evolving so quickly, from digital twins to AI, how do you see certification processes evolving in the next, say, 5 to 10 years, even?
As I said, like there's going to be a lot of things that are different. You're not going to be have. It's just predictions, right? Things as of now they stand still. Like when you're applying for a permit in a county, you go through the exact same process. Also, it's a checklist, and then the reviewer is going to be sitting. You're going to say if all the plans are code compliant. whether you're going for architectural, plumbing, and mechanical, electrical, and all the other disciplines, right? But I genuinely feel starting in the next year or two, we're gonna start seeing things moving way faster. Most of the times, instead of like having the permit being expedited by an expedition company, by an expediting company, you're gonna start seeing agents, AI agents. That's what I genuinely feel that AI agents gonna be taking over. They're not gonna be replacing reviewers, obviously, but instead of like having the first skim or the first screening process for someone to sit down and go through the plans one by one, whether it's like 30 sheets, 100 sheets, or whatsoever, and taking a month or two to get that um, first screening, as I said, like first report for the designer back, I think those times are going to be cut way better. I think you're going to be able to feed machines these kind of like understanding what is it exactly the detail that you need for this to work out versus giving the architect or the designer, or as I said, like any other engineer, kind of like a list of things that they can do alternatively to prove that this system's gonna be working. So I think it's gonna be way more accurate. Times are gonna be cut. And I think the government is already like investing a lot in all these kind of techs with a lot of monster companies like Google. Not sure like any other companies, but I think there's a lot of companies that they're doing a lot of work in the AI, potentially like something like Google.
Oh, I'm sure that they must be hot on its tracks. Um, okay, so Louis, as far as growing as a company, um, where do you see the biggest struggles or bottlenecks for Render Expo right now?
I always believe that people are always kind of like stuck in their own ways. So for example, when we're having these type of conversations, people think that this is not only progression, but by the end of the day, this is like changing the old ways, right? We still have like people, we still have conversations with people that they do plans by hand. And that's kind of defeating the purpose of entirely what we do, right? Because I never believed myself that we're going to be working with people that they're still drafting by hand. But by the end of the day, it's any CAD or BIM. It's a tool that you use, and for you to like move faster. So if you feel like you're drafting by hand, that's fine. If this is faster for you, that by the end of the day, like we need accuracy, efficiency, we need things quick. So if this is working properly and perfectly fine for you, that's great. But by the end of the day, you need to elevate your shop and you need to elevate your studio, your practice to be in the sense of within the same movement in a way. So if you're stuck in your own ways, that's going to be an issue. So going back to Render Expo, where the conversations that where we're having is, let's say I can give you the better product for the same price, or let's say for a cheaper price for a quicker time. It sounds kind of like interesting idea, but by the end of the day, people feel like they need to be more in control of what they're doing. So whether that they have the CAD file in front of them, they don't understand scripting, they don't understand coding if we're talking about AI, or let's say they don't understand digital twinning exactly in the sense of like what a digital construction twin is. So these are like, it takes a bit of like more of an educational side on our end to tell exactly people what they're looking for. Because by the end of the day, if I sit down and I say, if you're working on a rendering and you're saying, this is wood, okay, what type of wood? And then you're going to tell me, like, I need more details. This is like a 2x4, certain specification. Okay, so this is not wood anymore. This is a certain type of wood. As long as you want that kind of level of detail for the digital construction twinning kind of concept, then you need to apply all the things that we're talking about. Again, if you're just wanting to show your client a pretty image, then this is different. And I believe that all projects, they deserve to be done in a way that they're efficient. Clients would be happier. All, as I mentioned, all the feedback that when we're applying our processes with our clients, they're super happy and understanding of how things are different for them, meaning they're having better product, they're having better marketing plan and aspect for them. They're having a better communication process with their client. The times is being cut, regardless if it's 20%, sometimes it's 60%, sometimes it's 70%. We never hit the 80% mark yet, but I'm really hoping that we can do that. Um, but unless like all these kind of things, like these are enhancements and advancements in the things that you're doing for your client, I believe people are going to be happy about it. I think the wall that we're having, like we're clashing against, is the concept of trying this out, you know. And then I think we need potentially like we need better marketing tools um, for applying these kind of things.
Okay. When you say marketing tools, what does that, kind of look like to you?
I think trying the product, like seeing what's going to be the difference. Like if you're going to go with this versus if you're going to go without it. We had, bringing an example, we have conversations with companies that they do a lot of projects in the old way. And then one of the days I was asking their CEOs, like, well, what if your client that you're depending on changed their way and they were asking for better? And they're like, well, I don't think they're going to do that because they fully trust us. And I'm like, well, I can go to your client if I'm your competitor and I can show them that I can do better than you because you've been keeping the exact same process that's been working for them for the past 20 years. But then someone else is going to come and going to replace you. The same way that Apple replaced Nokia and Motorola. Um, I mean, there's a lot of examples in the industry, like in a lot of industries, when you have one client or one company replacing another company for a better product. So I think trying these kind of aspects is something that I would be looking forward into doing.
That's awesome. Those are some really terrific insights, Louis. I appreciate you sharing them with us. But before we wrap up, just two quick questions that we ask all of our guests. The first one is, if you weren't in architecture and design, what do you think you'd be doing instead?
Right now,
Yeah.
anything within AI,
Yeah.
100%.
I can sense your passion, and I absolutely love that, and I can definitely resonate with that as well.
It's not only bad. I mean, I'm being realistic by the end of the day. I think there's a lot of what like AI is not a new concept. It's been a concept since the like 1950s, 1960s. I'm not super accurate about it, but commercially, since like all this kind of like new companies with open AI and whatever that is happening, people are not really understanding, and that's something that I try to understand myself. If you're not understanding that artificial intelligence is here to stay, then this is a huge issue. I believe things are happening super fast. They're being picked up super fast. Ways that being developed in all the companies entirely different than how things used to be developed. Like business development by itself, every year you add a lot of like you add a minimal or like potentially some skills into it, right? But since you have all these kind of tools, which is almost, I'm not going to say for free, but you have all of them accessible. And if you're not using them, then this is a huge issue. So if you're not using them, I know a lot of people that they are. And within the next year or 2 or 3 years, if you're not using them, then you're out. Because other people, they're going to come to you cheaper, faster, quicker, more efficient, more accurate. So why would I be with you versus not being with other companies that they're doing better than you, cheaper than you, and quicker than you? So I think within 5 years, we're going to see a lot of new jobs being developed. Like there's a lot of jobs in the architectural industry. I think they're not going to be in anymore. Potentially drafters, potentially like BIM managers. Um, the type of like technical aspects of like detailing and like understanding how a detail would work, even that's going to be a bit minimal, not because of like not understanding what is the requirement that you need to do, but the level of detail of like working on a detail, let's say a window detail or a door detail or like any super complex detail, you can actually describe it, um, and you can produce it, and then you can use it, you can model it. So you need to understand how it works. You don't need to tell someone anymore that I need you to do this 1 2 3 4. It's basically that AI agent or application is taking that BIM manager's job. So instead of like having 5 BIM managers on a project, you can have like just one occasionally looking at the project itself. So I think within 5 years from now, a lot of jobs are going to be taken out in the industry, but yet in the same time, there's going to be huge opportunities for like more people within, like, let's say a prompt engineer. We never had that before. Let's say we want someone, an AI detail engineer. So these are the kind of things that I believe that they're going to start popping in the industry. And I think there's a great opportunity for everyone to start jumping on that train.
Louis, I couldn't have said it better myself. But I absolutely love your vision, and I appreciate you sharing that with us as well. But last but not least, is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners today? Whether it's a message, maybe some socials, maybe a website where they be able to reach out to you guys, or maybe some projects you'd like to share with us.
Yeah, sure. We're more than happy to connect with all the people. Anyone who's looking to actually try us, we're more than happy to have a conversation with. We like to sit with everyone who's looking forward for progression and for the sense of like offering our services. And I'm not sure if you can actually put our website and our link. That would be like highly appreciated.
Yeah, I'll definitely attach that to our show notes. But Louis, this was absolutely fantastic. I really enjoyed this conversation. As far as what it's like to streamline the process for certification, especially the talks about AI and where you see the industry of architecture and design going. And to our listeners, appreciate you tuning in to another episode of the Advisor AI Solutions podcast, where we explore the people and ideas driving sustainable growth in construction and design. Until next time, automate the ordinary and scale the extraordinary. Thanks again.